here we are, and I hope everybody's doing well. And I gotta just tell you, I don't know about you guys, but I'm so inspired by these young people at the Stoneman High School that I'm blown away by their ability to articulate themselves, their dedication. I saw an interview today of this young man, and he was on TV, and they had brought in Dan Rather to sit with him, and they were talking, and the young man said, yeah, wow, the day after all this happened, I got a rejection letter from Cal State Long Beach. He goes, but I'm now hoping to go to Harvard. I was like, you probably get in now, because you're so poised. But, Dan Rather, he said something, and it had been something that I've been thinking about a lot, because I'm like, this is a huge high school. It's like Berkeley High School, right? Like just an enormous liberal arts college-sized high school. And these kids are so much more well-spoken than I am, and collected in their thoughts and what they're able to say, even in the backdrop of what's happened in their lives. And so I'd been sort of curious, like, wow, what is what is going on there that they are so able to articulate? Not that they're activated, but how they're able to articulate themselves. And I've been thinking about that, and then Dan Rather said to the young man, he goes, listen, I've seen a lot of movements happen in my life, and he goes, what you have to make sure is that what you've obviously got is willpower, but does the willpower have staying power? Right? And it's such a big statement, because we all, in all types of things in our lives, we have the will to do things, but then we don't see something immediate and we get tired, discouraged, and I'm at the top of that list. I'll be like, 3 hours into something, I'll be like, oh, okay. I didn't want to do pinch my rasana that much anyway. So it really just struck, and then it realized that I had just read this article, because I'd been wondering, well, how is it there's a culture of being able to articulate and to move. And I read an article about the woman who this school is named after, Margaret Stoneman, I think was her name. And as soon as I read it, I realized, oh, well, that's why, because the namesake of the school was the woman who was so activated in trying to save the natural landscape of Florida, that they say that she is the whole reason that we have the Everglades National Park. And that she was like a gnat in the eye or the nose of everyone around for her whole life. She was born in the late 1800s, and I think she died in her 90s, somewhere in the past 20, 30 years. But she just kept at it. She kept at it. She kept at it. And she had this quote that she gave to this reporter who had said, wow, what is it? Don't you get discouraged? All those years you were working hard for something you believed in, and it wasn't coming your way, and it wasn't coming your way. Didn't you get discouraged? And she said, what does it matter if I've been discouraged or encouraged over the years? This thing's got to be done. It's not a question of how I feel from moment to moment. And I thought, wow, that's something that sometimes we're missing in so many different ways. It's really important that we're in touch with what it is that we're experiencing, how we're experiencing, that we're not like taking things that we're feeling and pushing them away and pushing them aside and not dealing, because they will come back. But that sometimes there are things that are bigger in our lives that we have to be. It's not about our personal comfort in any moment, or a personal moment of feeling really encouraged or really discouraged, but like just having the staying power, right? And so we have to be able to exist in both of those things, to know our own readiness to and our own preferences and our own abilities to call on those, and not to bypass, right? And at the same time to say, you know what, okay, yeah, but not now. I'm going to put you here. We're going to deal with you in a few minutes, because whether I'm encouraged or discouraged, this thing's got to get done, right? It's a totally different thing than like just running yourself into the ground, busyness types of things. Mm-hmm. It's a totally different thing than than complacency. It's about, wow, I'm part of a whole. And sometimes I'm going to think in bigger ways. And whether I'm discouraged or encouraged, this thing has to get done. And then we stick with it. And it's like our practice. It's just small steps consistently over a long period of time. Even in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, is that, you know, the accomplishments of yoga happen over in consistent actions over a long period of time. And you can add on to that with a certain degree of devotion, right? The bigger picture remembrance. So as we practice today, we're going to practice, but we're going to work on some really small actions that, just done consistently over practice, can make a bigger impact than sometimes things that look really like strong actions that are short-lived. So take a moment, please, and close your eyes.